If you've ever said, "I'm fine," while your chest felt heavy and your jaw was locked, this video is for you. A lot of us were not taught how to feel or how to even tell what we're feeling. Instead, we were taught how to hide. And this causes us to experience a great deal of internal conflict because there's a mismatch inside of us. Our mind says, "I'm fine," but our body says, "Nope." But why does this happen? Well, because instead of connecting to our real feelings, we learn to do one of the following: hide and or disconnect from our emotions entirely. Think about our emotions instead of actually feeling them, meaning putting our energy into thoughts rather than feelings or the physical sensations that our feelings produce in our bodies, where feelings actually live. Focus all of our energy outside of ourselves into the external world, on other people, on problems and circumstances. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you a simple body first way to find the primary emotion, meaning what you're really feeling, using a 60-second audit you can repeat daily. Hi, I'm Madalena, and this is You Reclaimed. Around here, we spend a lot of time talking about how we reclaim our lives back from the grips of childhood trauma, from emotional dysregulation, and from anxiety. And we do this ongoing exercise because we want to live our lives on our own terms. I hope you stick around. Before we get into it, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any future videos. And if you're finding this content helpful, please give it a like. It really helps the channel grow. As kids, we're socialized by other people, by parents, by our caregivers, by school and culture to suppress or completely disconnect from certain emotions. Here are some ways you may have been socialized in this way. If you had avoidant or emotionally distant parents, big feelings likely made them uncomfortable. So you learn to suppress your feelings, thus making yourself smaller and taking up less emotional space in the environment. If you were shamed for crying when crying was actually appropriate, you learn that feelings like sadness or grief or tenderness are to be feared. In the same way, if you were punished for anger when anger was appropriate, you learned that hot feelings like anger were not acceptable and that they had to remain hidden. Over time, many of us stop recognizing what we feel at all because we learn to hide such inappropriate feelings even from ourselves. These feelings then get replaced by a sense of emptiness or numbness or a vague sensation of something being wrong, but it beats me what it could be. Feeling isn't the problem. Feeling is your internal compass. Without it, without that compass working properly, you wander through life sort of aimlessly. A quick map here before we go further. Primary emotions are the raw signal level feelings that come up in our bodies first at the somatic level, right? They might be feelings like sadness, fear, anger, joy, disgust. They're honest even when they're uncomfortable. Secondary emotions are the defenses or reactions we use to sort of cover the primary ones, the primary feelings. These secondary feelings can be feelings like hate, resentment, bitterness, contempt, even numbness. A common example is what we would call anger, which often masks feelings of hurt or raw emotional pain. Anger can be protective, even useful at times. Anger can get us to say, "I hate him," which is easier to tolerate than "I'm devastated by him." Anger can be clean and boundary setting sort of anger as a primary emotion. And sometimes anger is a smokescreen that we sort of like draw over our primary emotions that might be fear or grief. In this case, the anger is expressed as a secondary emotion to hide the other emotions even from ourselves. Most of us process emotions in our head, as thoughts, takes, hot opinions we have about things, judgments, without checking the body where feelings actually live. Think of your body as the instrument. The mind is only the interpreter of what your body already feels. But if you only listen to the interpreter up here, then you'll end up missing the subtleties, the music, which is down here, right, at the somatic level. Not necessarily tied to your belly, but definitely at the physical level. So feelings are somatic. They show up as sensations. And because the somatic level comes before the thinking level, that's where you have to start. So let's talk about some common patterns of how feelings show up in our body. And these vary from person to person, meaning while sadness for me might feel like an ache in my chest, it might feel like something else in your body. So use these examples as a starting place. Sadness or grief might show up physically as a heaviness in your chest, or a lump in your throat, or watery eyes, or even fatigue. Fear and anxiety could manifest as a fluttery stomach, a racing heart, or shallow breath and cold hands. Anger might feel like heat in your face, in your neck, a clenched jaw that feels immobile, tight fists, forward-leaning type of energy, right? Your body literally tipping. Shame might feel like a collapsed posture, right? The urge to hide, a hot face, your body feeling shrunk. Joy or relief might feel like spreading warmth throughout your body, like easy breath, an open chest, and a lightness in your limbs. But how will you get in touch with these kinds of physical sensations if you've never attempted it? What if you have no idea how to make the connection between your body and the thoughts that pop up in your head, or the things that happen in your life, circumstances, events? What if you can't even tell that there is a connection? Here's a simple way we might start. For the next 1 or 2 weeks, you can practice simple observations a few times a day. No judging, no labeling any of the sensations in your body. Just start very simply by asking yourself, what do I notice in my body right now, in this moment? In my chest, is it tight or is it loose? In my throat, is it open or does it feel constricted? In my stomach, does it feel calm or in knots? My jaw, my shoulders, are they soft, falling, or are they clenched? What we're doing at first is reconnecting wires that might be cut altogether or at least very severely frayed. But this process takes time. So be gentle with yourself and give yourself the time necessary. Just observe physical sensations in your body as they show up. Once this kind of gentle and non-judgmental observation feels familiar, then you can start pairing the sensations with what's happening here and now in life. So, for example, let's say one day your boss asks you to work another Saturday, and your thought is, this is unfair. And you spend the next 3 hours rehearsing your frustrations in your own head, like things you'd like to say to your boss or ways you'd like to stand up for yourself. But none of this is actually helping, because at the bottom of it, you don't really understand why you're so upset. And so you're kind of fighting inside of yourself. And it's hard to resolve a problem that you don't really understand and you're in conflict over. And this is because the thought, this is unfair, is a cognitive interpretation. So instead of focusing on that, now drop into the body and feel the sensation that goes along with this scenario. Where do I feel that? Scan your chest, your throat, your stomach, your jaw, your shoulders, and pick the strongest signals coming from your body. A knot in your stomach or heat in your face, or the two together, might mean anger. Maybe because you feel that your boundaries are being violated. You don't like to work on Saturdays. Maybe Saturdays are your own time or family time, and this is a line between work and your personal life that you don't want crossed. What might this point to? Maybe your need for a boundary and respect for your own time. Or instead, let's say that you feel a heaviness in your chest and a lump in your throat. That might be sadness or grief, and that points to something else, like I'm being taken advantage of. In that case, maybe you feel unseen or unappreciated. Maybe you've been saying yes for months and no one's acknowledging the cost of you working Saturdays. What does it point to? Maybe recognition and fairness in your job are missing. Or instead, maybe you feel a heaviness in your chest and a slumped posture. That might be sadness or disappointment. And that might point to something else altogether, like, I don't like this job as it is. I don't want to do more of it on the weekend because I already don't like it. Maybe this is misalignment. The role doesn't fit your values or season of life anymore. What could that point to? Perhaps a bigger career check-in. As you can see, different physical sensations lead you down the path to a more clear name for the real feeling and the need underneath of that feeling. So, different primary emotions invite different actions. Let's look at another example. Let's say a coworker makes a snide comment and you tell yourself, whatever, I don't care. But your body says shaky hands and a fast heartbeat. That might equate to a primary feeling of fear, perhaps because of the social threat of being judged or being criticized by your coworker. And this primary fear might ask for reassurance or for space or for self-soothing rather than numbness or a fight. What now? What do you do once you've identified the primary feeling? Now you might move from a vague label like upset, bad, stressed, to more precise words like, I feel really disappointed, or I feel lonely, or I feel betrayed, I feel embarrassed. Specific names reduce overwhelm or confusion, and they point you towards clearer next steps or actions. If you notice that you regularly feel hate, for example, or contempt, or bitterness, or even numbness, ask yourself, if these feelings were an armor that I put around myself, or a shield that I wield in front of the core of me, the core of who I am, what would that shield or armor be protecting? Hate often protects us from feeling hurt. Contempt is often a shield against feeling shame or feeling inadequacy. Numbness is often protective of feelings of overwhelm or fear. And keep in mind, what we're trying to do here is not shame ourselves for having defenses. Defenses are smart adaptations. Rather, we're just trying to get to the truth underneath of it. As I said, primary emotions guide us to clear action. Anger sends us towards setting firmer boundaries or limits, like I can't work Saturdays anymore. Sadness might lead us to seek comfort or a grieving ritual of some sort, or to reach out for connection with other people. Fear might send us towards seeking a safety plan or reassurance, or even slowing down if we need to. Shame might lead us toward finding warm and empathic connection with other people, or towards self-compassion, or even towards repairing anything that we've done or said that might require repair. So a simple script when you're ready to speak might sound something like this. When event, whatever the event has happened, I first felt, and then you name the secondary emotion. Underneath that, the primary feeling is because of XYZ. What I need is, and then you would put the action. So for example, okay, when Andrew told me I was being mean, I first felt anger. Underneath the anger, I felt shame because I'd crossed his boundary. What I need to do is apologize and repair. See how that works? So even though we might react with anger, a secondary emotion in this case, our primary emotion underneath might be shame at having spoken roughly or meanly to someone we care about. The primary emotion in this case is shame, and it leads us back to feeling the need to repair. Let's try one more example to really clarify how this works. Let's say When my partner checked their phone while I was talking, I first felt angry. Underneath that, the primary feeling might be hurt because I felt dismissed and unimportant. What I need is for my partner to put the phone down and look at me when we're sharing something or when I'm sharing something with them that is important to me. So what I'm actually needing here is attuned attention and presence, respect and consideration for what I'm saying. Here are a few common detours that can pull you off the trail of the primary emotion. For example, I can't feel anything. So then you have to start smaller. Track things like your posture and your breath only. Often numbness is a protector of fear or sadness. Or you feel that I'm only angry. Great, anger is information. Ask, what boundary do I feel was crossed? Then check if anything else is underneath the anger. Often this will be hurt or fear. Maybe if I feel it, I'll drown in it completely. In this case, you can time box it. Set a 3-minute timer. Place the hand on your chest or your belly. Breathe slowly and reorient to the room. Name 5 blue things you can see. Come back into the body, because containment of your own emotions is a skill, and like any skill, it needs practice. Then return to the loop. Sensation, primary feeling, need, action. When you access the primary emotion, you stop arguing about symptoms and you start meeting your real needs underneath. That's what we're really trying to do here. Responding to secondary emotions is like sending the firefighters to the wrong house and then wondering why the neighborhood is still on fire. By understanding your primary emotions, you become less reactive and more connected to yourself and to other people. Secondary emotion is a sort of armor, right? Primary emotion is the truth underneath. If you want to start practicing this consistently, pick one daily moment to run the 60-second audit, same time each day, morning, email, commute, lunchtime, bedtime, it doesn't really matter when you do it. Then practice it every day. Consistency rewires the pathway from body to mind and then to language. If you want to go deeper into emotions and you're wondering what it feels like to feel emotionally safe in a relationship, you can watch my video on emotional safety, what it actually feels like and how to build it. It pairs perfectly with today's practice. If you like this kind of content and you find it helpful, please consider liking, subscribing, and perhaps sharing it with someone who's also learning to listen to themselves again. Until next time.